I just want to insert my opinion for like 2 seconds on the Nolan Wells case, because I just saw where Nancy Grace came out with the transcribed CETO call. And here's my thing. I'm from the South, so I feel like I can speak on this because I grew up around nothing but racist, okay? And so as someone with this skin, I feel like I could speak out on this. Here's my questions. Why? First of all, so many of y'all want to say that it wasn't murder. Like, so many of y'all were so quick to say it wasn't murder, that things happened. If that was the case, then why do none of the friends know what happened? Furthermore, Nancy Grace just released a CETO call. Anybody in their right mind, if you hear what was on that call in the background where they're asking, is someone dead? First things first, you're not going to call CETO. You're going to call 911, typically, if you're worried about someone. Secondly, why did you turn down Coast Guard when they asked if you needed the Coast Guard? If you are sinking, and if there is that shit going on in the background, like what they're asking about, is someone dead, you should say yes to any bit of help that you can get, right? I also think it's odd that all of them got rid of their social media. None of them have really had much of an explanation. They do what your typical white people do in those circumstances. Look at the Murdaugh case, and there was no one of color in that case. But because they were prominent Caucasians surrounding around that death of the girlfriend, they did everything they could to cover up and get him out of it. The same rules apply to this, and like in my head, the same rules apply to this. They were both situations were boating, and in those situations, someone unfortunately lost their life. But getting back to the Nolan case, hearing that voice, like hearing that recording of them asking for, or just asking if someone is dead in the background, how is it that you're clueless and you have no idea what could have happened to him? That call, like, there's a reason why Nancy Grace got her bob fixed to the heavens, honey. That thing wouldn't move in hurricane force winds. She knows something. Her gut tells her something, just like my gut has been telling me something has been going on with this case. It was too weird. It was too weird. And I got to be careful with how I say things, because y'all love to drag me through the mud anytime I talk out against Caucasians. So I'm trying to be careful with how I word this. But before I get in the shower, I've had a long day at work. Before I get in the shower, I really wanted to like put a little bit of 2 cents in your head with that, because I commented on Nancy Grace's video and already people have started coming for me. And all I did was comment, why did we call CETO and not 911? And several people commented and said, well, because there was no medical emergency. You fucking racist idiot. What do you mean there's no medical emergency? Open your fucking ears. And do you not hear them in the background asking if someone is dead? Are you that small-minded that you will forego any bit of the facts because you need your story to be the truth, where no one was murdered? If that was your youngin', if the roles were reversed, y'all, my God, as a white person, I can come out and say that. I know good and well if the roles were reversed, y'all would be dragging this through the mud. But because it was a group of Caucasians and it was an African-American person that passed away, all of you small-minded, closed, racist people, you immediately want to assume that he died of like natural causes, or he caused his own death, or it wasn't a murder. I will always stand on the right side of history. I promise you. I don't care how many people cancel me, how many people come for me. My boys will know that their mother always stood on the right side of history. I have said that there was something fishy about this case from the moment it came out in the news. And as soon as I posted something about it, y'all came for me. And I'm just here to say that I stand with Nancy. There's a reason why Nancy is as into this as she was the Casey Anthony shit. Okay? She knows because her spidey senses are tingling just like my spidey senses are tingling. If a youngin' ever went with me on a boat, it don't matter if they were black, white, brown, purple, green, blue, square, triangle, rectangle, obtuse, caboose, papatoose, you name it. That baby's coming home with me and my family. I don't care if anybody got in a fight or an altercation. If you go on the boat with me and my husband, I'm bringing you back. Scout's honor. Promise. Promise. There's something, you never leave anybody, anywhere, especially on water. Y'all can get the fuck out of here with your excuses. That's the thing about you racist people. Y'all will make an excuse out of anything to justify any type of actions. Every single time. There's always an excuse. Just as soon as something happens in the media when an African American or a brown skinned person is involved, you're quick to say, stupid is as stupid does, right? All those things. But you didn't say that about the young girl that died with the Murdochs on the boat. Everybody was boo-hooing tears about her dying. It was so tragic, right? But we don't have that same sympathy for this poor youngin' who had his whole life ahead of him. It doesn't matter what the familial situations were, because I saw that being thrown around. That doesn't matter. He went out with a group of friends. He should have came back with a group of friends, alive. And if he ever went missing, their first thing should have been, we need to find him. We need to know what's going on. How is it that we all of a sudden, everybody's got amnesia and nobody knows what happened to him and nobody can find him? Make that make sense. Those are the type of people that I don't want my children around. Y'all are so twisted. Y'all are so twisted. I cannot wait for the truth to come out about this poor baby. Just to prove to a lot of you small-minded, closed-minded, racist people, how many more people have to die for you to see that there is a common denominator here? There's a problem. I wouldn't let my own children who are Caucasian go on a boat with a group full of other Caucasian children. Let that sink in. We'll not allow it. The only time I'll allow it is if I'm there. That's it. I pray that some of y'all find a little bit of brains in between your ears. And I pray that some of y'all find a little bit of empathy too. Because all of you closed-minded, small-minded racists are also you claim to be Christians. Y'all are the most evil people I have ever seen in my entire life. Evil. Evil people. And that right there is why so many young people, and I don't even think I'm young, but I can include myself in this. There's a reason why me and my family don't go to church every Sunday, every Wednesday like I did when I grew up. Your body is your temple. Jesus is right here. Those of you that go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays, and the ones that post your Bible verses or, you know, live, laugh, love, eat, pray, love, whatever, on your walls, you're the same people. You're the same people. I'm disgusted with y'all. Like, to everyone with brown skin, please let me formally apologize, because I do not share the views and the thought patterns and anything to do with what the people that share my skin color have. But I apologize for these small-minded people, because as someone who was raised around nothing but small-minded racists, I grew a brain myself and decided what I wanted to pick as right and wrong. And I'm so sorry that not all of us feel this way, but I promise you, I feel so passionately about this that I will do everything that I can in my power to never stop running my lips to help just shed light onto what y'all
This case has been active for months. Investigators have been on Horn Island. They have pulled digital records. They have interviewed dozens of people. So why is this account only surfacing now? That question has two possible answers, and neither one is comfortable. Either she came forward and investigators kept it sealed, which is standard practice in an active grand jury referral, or this account is new. Genuinely new, reaching investigators at the same time it is reaching the public. Both possibilities matter. Both change what happens next, because a late witness in an active case is not automatically unreliable. Witnesses come forward late for real reasons: fear, uncertainty about what they saw, not knowing where to report, watching the case develop and realizing what they witnessed actually connects. But late witness accounts also arrive in environments already shaped by viral claims, and this case has had plenty of those. So the standard applied here is the same one applied to everything else: what can be verified, what cannot, and what the documented record actually shows. Now let's put the fixed record on the table, because before her claim can mean anything, you need to know exactly what it is being measured against. July 4th. Nolan and his friend group make the trip to Horn Island. This is a barrier island roughly 10 miles offshore. Federal land, no buildings, no permanent presence. Thousands of people converge there every Independence Day. That afternoon, the boat develops a mechanical problem. The bilge pump fails. The battery becomes submerged. The vessel begins taking on water. That failure is not disputed. GPS data confirms the location. A CETO call was placed, CETO being a private membership-based marine assistance service, and that call has been released and verified by a state agency. The content of that call centers on the mechanical emergency. A young male voice reports the boat is taking on water at the west tip of Horn Island. Membership details are confirmed. A captain is dispatched. A nearby vessel assists with a tow. That is what the afternoon call was. A mechanical distress call. Not a welfare call. Not a call about a missing person. Multiple friends who have spoken on the record, including Warren Hudson and Traston Shepard, state that Nolan was not on that boat when it left. They say he chose to stay behind. They say he had met a young woman on the island that day. They say they believed he planned to catch a later ride back. That account has remained consistent. Across multiple interviews, across national television appearances, consistency matters. It is a real signal. That same night, Warren Hudson contacted the United States Coast Guard. Around 11 p.m., Nolan had not returned. He could not be reached. That report triggered a 2-day search. Coast Guard, Jackson County Sheriff's Office, Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, National Park Service, and volunteer groups all activated. 2 days later, Nolan Wells was recovered near the island's northwestern tip. An independent forensic examination was conducted. Cause of death, undetermined. Manner of death, undetermined. That is the baseline. That is what the witness claim now sits next to. And the question this chapter is built around is simple. Do those two things align, or do they directly contradict each other? Before we go further, if you are watching this case develop and you want coverage that separates verified facts from viral claims, this channel is where that happens. A grand jury process is moving in this case. Phone data is under examination. A witness account just entered the picture that has not been confirmed or dismissed. The next section of this video covers exactly what investigators have and have not said publicly about that claim, and why that silence tells you more than most people realize. Subscribe now so you do not miss what comes next. Okay, official silence. Let's talk about what that actually means. No law enforcement agency has publicly confirmed this witness account. No agency has publicly denied it either. In a case with an active grand jury referral, that silence is not unusual. It is actually expected. Here is why. Grand jury proceedings are sealed by law. Witness statements that feed into that process are protected. If investigators have already spoken to this woman, They cannot confirm it publicly without compromising the process. That matters because it means absence of confirmation is not the same as absence of investigation. Those are two completely different things, and conflating them is how misinformation spreads in open cases. Now take a look at the investigative architecture already in place. The FBI is active on this case. Horn Island is federal land. That gives the FBI jurisdiction over anything that happened there. And the FBI's role here centers on digital forensics, phones, metadata, cell tower pings, location data, communication records. A mutual phone inspection has already been agreed to by both sides. That means Nolan's phone and potentially other devices are being examined simultaneously. That kind of agreement does not happen in a case investigators have written off. 60 witnesses have been interviewed. 60. That is a significant number for a case that some early coverage treated as straightforward. Now layer the witness claim on top of that structure. If she came forward before the grand jury referral was announced, her account has potentially already been folded into those 60 interviews. If she came forward after, investigators now have a new data point to run against everything already collected. Either way, her account does not exist in a vacuum. It exists inside a forensic and investigative framework that is already deep. And here is the two-sided problem this creates. If her account is corroborated by digital evidence or existing witness statements, this case moves toward a homicide determination. If her account cannot be corroborated, if the digital record contradicts her timeline or her location, then an unverified claim in an active investigation becomes something more complicated. It becomes noise in a process that requires precision. Both outcomes are real possibilities. Neither one can be collapsed into certainty tonight. That is the honest condition of where this sits. Now let's walk the claim directly against the timeline, one point at a time, because this is where the contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. She says she witnessed a confrontation involving Nolan. If that confrontation occurred before the boat departed, and the boat departed sometime that afternoon, then the sequence looks like this. Nolan is in physical distress on the island. The friend group is also on the island at that point. The boat then develops mechanical trouble. The sea tow call is placed. The boat is towed or assisted away from the island. If that order is accurate, the friends departed with knowledge that Nolan was not simply staying behind voluntarily. That is not a minor discrepancy. That is a fundamental contradiction of every on-record statement made by anyone in that group. Every single one of them has said the same thing. Nolan chose to stay. They believed he had a plan to get back. They did not know he was in danger until he failed to return that night. Her claim, if it holds, says something different. It says the moment of danger came before the departure, not after. And here is where the character-based doubt already in the record becomes important. Nolan's father has said publicly that his son would not have stayed behind voluntarily. He raised Nolan to stay with the people he traveled with. Javon Williams, a longtime friend who was on Horn Island that day on a separate boat, said he had never known Nolan to leave without the group he arrived with. These two men reached the same conclusion independently, without coordination, based on years of knowing who Nolan was. The witness claim, if corroborated, would give that doubt a specific explanation. Not just a character-based instinct, but a documented mechanism for why Nolan did not come home. That is not a conclusion. That is a variable. Unverified does not mean false. Confirmed does not mean certain. Both standards hold here equally. But the contradiction between her account and the friend group's account is not small. It is not a detail gap. It is a direct conflict over what happened in the same window of time. And someone's version of that afternoon is wrong. The phone data, the cell tower records, and the sealed forensic findings, those are what determine which version survives contact with the evidence. That data is coming. And when it does, this channel will cover what it actually shows, not what the fastest reaction claims it shows. If that is the standard you want applied to a case this serious, subscribe right now, because the next development in this case will not wait, and you will want to be here when it lands. Now let's talk about what corroborating her account would actually require, because this is where the investigation either finds traction or hits a wall. First, location. She claims she was on Horn Island at a specific time, Cell tower data can place a phone on or near that island within a window, not precise to the minute, but precise enough to confirm or contradict a general presence. If her device pings the relevant tower during the window she describes, that is a foundation. It does not prove what she saw, but it confirms she was where she says she was. Second, digital corroboration. Horn Island on July 4th had thousands of people, thousands of phones, thousands of cameras. Investigators working digital forensics on a federal land case have the ability to request metadata from photos and videos taken in a geographic area during a specific time window. A confrontation involving multiple people on a crowded island, on a holiday, is the kind of event that could have been captured without anyone realizing it. A background frame, an incidental video, a photo taken 10 feet away from something significant. That kind of evidence does not announce itself. It gets found through patient cross-referencing of device data against timestamps and GPS coordinates embedded in the files themselves. Third, cross-reference against existing statements. 60 witnesses have already been interviewed. If any of those 60 people were in proximity to what she describes, their accounts either support her version or they do not. Investigators already have those statements. They can run her account directly against them. Fourth, the independent forensic examination. The cause and manner of death were returned as undetermined, but undetermined is not a clean finding. It means the evidence was insufficient to reach a conclusion, not that the evidence was absent. Observations at the back of Nolan's head were specifically noted as pending further investigation in that examination. That detail has been in the public record. It has not been explained. A claimed physical confrontation and unexplained physical observations from a forensic examination, those two things now sit in proximity to each other. Whether they connect depends entirely on findings still under seal. Fifth, toxicology. The full state toxicology report has not been released. Toxicology in a case involving water recovery is complex. It can show what was in Nolan's system. It can also interact with physical findings to either support or rule out specific causes. If the toxicology results are inconsistent with a simple drowning, and if physical findings at the back of the head remain unexplained, and if a witness account describes a confrontation, those three data points begin to form a pattern. Not a conclusion, a pattern. The distinction matters. Corroboration requires all of these pieces to move in the same direction. One piece alone does not close a case. All of them pointing the same way. That is how an undetermined finding becomes something more specific. Now let's step back and place this claim inside the full landscape of the case. Because context here is not optional. It is essential. This case has already seen viral content travel faster than the facts behind it. A bathroom video filmed before a shower reached audiences large enough to rival official press events. Contested audio interpretations circulated as confirmed transcripts. A photograph presented as evidence Nolan survived the island was later shown by metadata to have been taken more than a week before July 4th. Each of those pieces moved fast, and each one carried real consequences. Cease and desist actions were filed. Documented harassment occurred. Real people, several of them still teenagers, had their lives affected by content that moved before it was verified. A witness claim travels through the same environment. It will be amplified before it is verified. It will be treated as confirmation by people who already believe the friends are responsible, and it will be dismissed entirely by people who do not. Neither reaction is the investigation. Neither reaction is the evidence. Attorney Ben Crump has been involved in this case from early on. His presence reflects a legitimate institutional question, whether cases involving young black men receive the same level of investigative scrutiny as others. That question is not invented. It rests on documented patterns across decades of American criminal justice. It deserves serious engagement. What it does not do is substitute for evidence. Raising a structural concern and proving a specific crime are two different actions. Both matter. They are not the same thing. The Wells family is still waiting for the full toxicology report, waiting for the grand jury process to conclude, waiting for an explanation of material that was unavailable for the independent examination. They have been waiting through viral videos and contested audio clips and unverified photographs. They deserve a process that moves on evidence, not on the speed of the loudest claim. The witness account deserves the same serious examination applied to everything else in this case. No more, no less. So here is where the case actually stands tonight. Not where the loudest reaction wants it to stand. Where the documented record places it. Fixed. Nolan Wells traveled to Horn Island on July 4th with his friend group. The boat experienced a documented mechanical failure confirmed by GPS data. A CTO call was placed and verified by a released state recording. A missing person report was filed that night. A multi-agency search was activated. Nolan was recovered 2 days later near the island's northwestern tip. An independent examination returned undetermined findings on both cause and manner of death. A grand jury referral is in motion. A mutual phone inspection has been agreed. The FBI remains active on digital forensics. Open. The full state toxicology report has not been released. The sealed state examination has not been made public. The grand jury outcome is unknown. The 60 witness interviews are not fully public. Physical observations from the independent examination remain listed as pending further investigation. And now, one more item in the open column. A woman who says she was on Horn Island that day. Who says she witnessed a confrontation involving Nolan, whose account has not been confirmed, has not been dismissed, and sits directly against a documented friend group timeline that has remained consistent across months of interviews. That is the honest condition of this investigation tonight. Not resolved, not stalled, active, moving, and carrying more open variables than most coverage is willing to sit with. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He cooked salmon for his parents the night before he left for Horn Island. He had football ahead of him. People who had known him for years said he was the kind of person who made others feel like they mattered. He went to that island with people he trusted. He did not come home. A woman now says she knows part of what happened in between. Whether her account survives contact with the digital record, whether it aligns with the forensic findings still under seal, whether it contradicts or confirms what 60 witnesses have already told investigators, those answers are coming. The toxicology report will move. The phone data will surface. The grand jury will reach a conclusion. And when any of that happens, the difference between a claim and a confirmation will be the only thing that matters. That is exactly when you need a source that covered the claim separately from the confirmation. That documented what was verified and what was not, before the outcome was known. If that is the standard you want applied to this case, subscribe to this channel right now. Not because there is more content coming, because the next sealed finding in the Nolan Wells case will change what everything before it means. And you will want to have been here from the beginning when it does. Nolan Wells deserves the truth. Not the fastest version of it. The true one.